All right. This is Hot 1039 939. I am your host, H Dub, aka Hollywood Dub, going virtual right now. And we're going to start off by introducing to you, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Cliff Albright. He is the executive director and co founder of Black Voters Matter. So I want to welcome him in the virtual space right now with your boy H Dubs, talk about a few things. So good afternoon to you, Mr. Cliff Albright.
Hey, good afternoon, brothers. Good to be here.
All right, that's good to hear. As the fight continues, what you guys are doing are definitely definitely commendable, and I'm very excited about it and glad to be a part of this journey that you guys are doing right now. And even though it's just me just interviewing you and getting the word out and letting people know what's going on, because you are coming to our city, Columbia, South Carolina, next Wednesday. So we're excited about that. So just wanted to get you on and talk about a few things and let you know how appreciative we are about it.
Well, great. We're excited about coming there, and we're coming there on the day after we're going to be in Atlanta, which is actually my home state, my home city. We're going to be in Atlanta on the 21st, but early on the 22nd, we're going to hit the road and make that trek coming towards South Carolina. We're going to stop off. We're going to have a brief stop, in fact, over at the state line just outside of Augusta.
Okay.
As we enter into South Carolina, we're going to do a brief stop where we're going to do a handoff where folks from Georgia are basically going to hand over the Freedom Ride to some folks from South Carolina that'll meet us out there, and then they'll escort us into Columbia, where we're so excited. We're going to be at the Capitol in Columbia. We're going to be there at 2 o'clock. We're going to be doing a rally. It's going to be talking about the objectives of the Freedom Ride, which is basically voting rights, right? We got HR 1, which is the For the People Act. We got HR 4, which is the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. We got DC statehood pending in Congress. We're going to be talking about all that federal legislation. But guess what? We're going to be talking about South Carolina. We could be talking about what's going on in Columbia. We could be talking about what's going on in Charleston. We could be talking about what's going on in Greenville, right? We're going to be talking about what's the status on voting in South Carolina and other related issues that folks are dealing with. Because at the end of the day, whether the issue we care about is police violence or gentrification or COVID or health issues, in order to advance our issues, the Black agenda, right? We can't do that without having real voting rights. So that's what this rally is going to be about in Columbia on the 22nd, starting at 2 o'clock.
Okay, for those who don't know exactly what's going on, like this is the Freedom Ride. So how does that work? I know, like, back in the day we had Dr. Martin Luther King took the walk, all the way to, Mississippi. And, they did the whole walk. So now it's the ride. Now we're driving. So
that's right.
What is the Freedom Ride all about? We know it's about, Black Voters Matter, and rallying us up and giving us information, but exactly kind of break it down, I guess, how it got started. And, we already kind of know the initiative, but kind of, refresh everybody on what's going on.
Man, H-Dub, I'm so glad you asked that about that history, because we take that history seriously. In 1961, this is actually the 60th anniversary of the 1961 Freedom Rides. And for those who don't know, that's part of why we're doing this, is so that we can remind people or teach people about that history. In 1961, some folks were trying to test segregation on the interstate buses like the Greyhound buses, right? And not just on the buses, but at the stations where you would go to when you were going from state to state, and they had these segregated waiting rooms and everything. Right. So it was a Freedom Ride where folks started off and they were going from DC and they were going down south to test out the new law that said, or the new case that said these places couldn't be segregated. But the only way that we could really test that was for folks to get on those buses and do that Freedom Ride. Long story short, we know some of the history. We've seen some of the pictures of like the bus that was on fire outside of Birmingham, and we've seen the pictures of people getting arrested as they were coming down to Mississippi. And so what we decided to do was to pay tribute to that history and do 60 years later, we're doing a Freedom Ride that's going in reverse. We're going from the South and taking it to DC. And this time, what we're testing, we're not testing the segregation on the buses, because this time we got the buses, right? So we're not testing segregation on the buses or at the stations. What we're testing with this Freedom Ride is our voting rights. Is this country finally going to honor the voting rights that we were supposed to have ever since the 15th Amendment in 1870, not just since 65, but ever since the Civil War ended in Reconstruction, when we were supposed to have our voting rights? Is this country going to live up to that promise? That's what this Freedom Ride is about. And again, we're paying tribute to those. In fact, at different stops along the way. So let me just tell you real quick the cities. We're starting off tomorrow in New Orleans. Then we're going to Jackson and Birmingham on Saturday. That's Juneteenth. We'll be in Birmingham. We'll be in Jackson and Birmingham. Then we go to Nashville, Tennessee. And if you study the history of the Freedom Rides, you know how important Nashville was to those Freedom Rides. Then from there, we're going to come to Atlanta on the 21st. We're going to do it big in Columbia on the 22nd. From there, we're going to go to Raleigh, North Carolina the next day. Then we're going to West Virginia. Yes, we're going to West Virginia, y'all. There's Black folks in West Virginia too. And then we're going to go to Virginia. And then finally on next Saturday, the 26th, we'll end it in DC, where we'll be right in front of the Capitol. Now we not storming nothing. We're not breaking down doors and knocking out windows, but we're going to be right in front of the Capitol, holding a major rally, talking about all these issues, and we're asking everybody to join us either at one of those stops along the way or join us in DC, or both.
Right. So basically, each city that you stop on the way there, people can just rally behind you, and just everybody just, what do they get on the bus, or they drive their own cars, or how's that from?
Yeah, so from most cities, people are going to be driving their own cars. Now, we've got some buses that are coming with us. We've got some national partners. We've got almost 40 national organizations that are joining on this. That includes everything from the NAACP Legal Defense Fund to Movement for Black Lives to Working Families Party. You know, just you name it. We got dozens of organizations nationally that are joining us. We got labor unions. We got one group that does hospitality workers, Unite Here. They got about 20-something buses themselves that are going to be coming from different points, meeting us in DC. So you can get your own bus. You can ride in your own cars, right? Mm-hmm. You can in some cities, and in fact, we'll do this for South Carolina if we get enough interest. If folks reach out to us and say, and they're related to one of our partner organizations there in the state, you know, a couple of great organizations right there in Columbia, you know, Sister Jazz Johnson, and the Basic Group. You probably know Jazz. She always in them streets, right?
All the time.
All the time. So if you with one of our partner groups, and you reach out to Basic and you say, hey, we want to get down, and they know you and they want to plan something, we can support a bus coming from South Carolina. But most people outside of those that are with one of our partner groups will be coming on their own. But guess what? You don't have to even travel all the way to DC. If you can, great. But if you can't, even if folks just converge on Columbia, we don't want it to just be a Columbia event. We want folks from all over the state to come to Columbia on that Tuesday, on the 22nd, so that we can show this is a statewide movement, and that this statewide movement is connected to these other states in this national movement. So everybody can participate one way or the other, whether it's in South Carolina, in DC, at one of the other stops, all of the above. Everybody can be a Freedom Rider.
Wow, this is really phenomenal, because it'll show the nation's capital how serious we are about, you know, having our rights, that we're able to have the rights, like you said, like we supposed to have. That's and right. Some of those rights are, because what are we missing?
That's right. We're missing. So this is what we're missing, right? You got states that are doing things like they're trying to make it harder to vote by mail. They're closing polling places. They're cutting down the hours that you can vote. They're making it harder to vote because they're requiring photo ID, and not just regular ID, but, you know, specific types of ID. Like in Texas, you know, they make it easier. You can use your gun permit, but you can't use, if you're a Black student, you can't use your student. You can't use your student ID, right? So when people have these conversations about ID, it's not as simple as, oh, everybody can get ID. They target it in ways to make it harder for us to vote. Just like back in the day,
Right.
they didn't just say black people had to take a literacy test, right? They said everybody got to take a literacy test. Everybody got to pay a poll tax. But what they knew is that when they set up those things, it was targeted at black folks.
Right.
They know what the impact's going to be. It's the same thing today. Not everything is going to say, hey, no black people can vote. Sometimes they just define the rules in a way where they know that it's going to impact black folks disproportionately. That's what we're going up against. That's why we need this new legislation, because these new bills would do a couple of things. They would establish new standards that would say, look, you got to have a certain number of hours. You got to have a certain number of days of early voting. You got to let people be able to vote without having to give an excuse why they want to early vote, right? You got to make it easier for people who have had their voting rights taken away because of previous convictions. You got to make it easier for folks to be able to get their rights away. That's one of the oldest forms of voter suppression. So those are the things that we need in this legislation. Those are the things we're fighting for. That's why we're doing this freedom ride.
Yeah, because this goes back to, like you say, back in the day where they keep moving the starting line. Like they'll be like, oh, okay, well, we starting right here. As soon as we come up to that, then they like, oh, okay, well, we're going to move it another 100 yards.
Right.
Now you have to come up to that. And then it delays everything. And we like, hey, what's going on? You say you know, we talking about equality. How are you going to do that without closing that gap?
I'll give you a perfect example of what you're describing, right? Because at first the goalpost was we want to be able to get the registered, right? So then we started register. So they said, okay, then we're going to make it harder for them to actually vote once you registered, right? So, but then we started voting more. So they said, okay, we're going to make it harder for you to win elections because we're going to do things like gerrymandering and all this funny stuff. But then we started winning elections, just like we won in Georgia, right? We shocked the country and won in Georgia. But now they're doing something even deeper. They're saying, even if you get registered, even if you vote, even if you overcome all the examples of voter suppression and you actually win, we're going to make it easier for the people who lose to then overturn the election. That's what Trump was trying to do a few months ago. He was trying to say, yeah, no, they didn't really win Georgia. I need you to find me some extra votes, right? Wow. What they're doing with some of these bills is they now making it easier for a state to overturn the election after we voted, right? So now that's the fail-safe, that's the backup, that's their last case scenario. If all the rest of the voter suppression fails, they want to be able to overturn elections. That's part of the protections that we need in this new legislation.
And they're giving the state the power to do that. So they have the power to do that. Wow. Yeah. How can people get information on what's going on? Because this is something definitely we got to stand up for. Like you said, it's the fight continues. So, wow.
Yeah. Well, hey, a couple of things you can do. Reach out to us on social media, right? Black Voters MTR. I think y'all got it up on the banner there. Black Voters MTR. That's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Black Voters MTR. We got lots of links there. We got lots of information. If you on Facebook, you can get your very own I Am a Freedom Rider Facebook. Facebook frame.
Right.
You get your own frame and add it to your profile. So when anybody looks at your profile, they see that you are a freedom rider. You can even do the I Am a Freedom Rider hashtag that we got, because we're asking people, take a picture of yourself and do a post about why voting is important to you, or do a video, do a little 30-second video and do I Am a Freedom Rider. Tag us on it, and then we'll amplify it, you know, and the good ones that we get, we might even put that together in some kind of a compilation video. So there are things you can do on social media to get involved. You can get the links, you can sign up to come to the Columbia event. You can get the information to go to DC. You can get the information. Heck, we don't care. Do something locally. Okay, you can't make it to Columbia, then do something locally. But we're asking everybody in South Carolina to get involved, because as we always say, everybody's an organizer. Everybody's a freedom rider. Everybody can at least tell 5 friends. Send us a text. That's right. Send us a text. Freedom Ride to 797979. Freedom Ride, one word, to 797979. That's another way you could get connected. So many ways for you to get involved. You can't lose.
So there's no excuse.
That's right.
So if you're feeling it and you see the importance of this, then yeah, by all means, it's time to join the fight. So I appreciate you taking the time out. So much, Cliff. And I wish you guys, much success, and you have our back here. Whatever we can do to amplify what you guys have going on. Like, we're going to continue to announce that, you guys will be here next Wednesday. So, we right here with you.
Hey, it's like we always say, we believe when we work together, we win. When we work together, there ain't nothing they can do to stop us. We believe that South Carolina got the power to be the next Georgia that can shock the country. When we work together, they can't stop us. Can't stop, won't stop.
Yeah, and if when that happens in South Carolina, that'll definitely shake the world.
That's right. That's right.
So we revved up and ready to go.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's ride out.
Yes, sir. Well, I hope you continue to have a blessed time, safe travels to you and the whole, movement that's going on. And I appreciate you so much.
All right, man. Love you, man. Thank you.
All right. Love you too, man. Take care, brother.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Cliff.